to my channel, Autism Parent Support with Tracy. I'm Tracy Pappas, autism mom and licensed clinical social worker. And today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. I have two guests here. This is Sam, autism mom of a 15-year-old son with autism, and Wendy has an 8-year-old son with autism as well. And they're both BCBAs. Thank you. And so I just wanted to do like a little bit of a round table discussion, and I figured it would be helpful just to discuss some, what our thoughts are. The first question I have, I'll ask you, Sam.
Okay.
What do you wish you could go back and tell yourself when your child was first diagnosed?
Okay, good question. So I think, because I thought about that when you gave it to me a little early, so I could kind of get myself prepared. I think not to worry so much about what other people thought. I was very concerned if people were going to be looking at Colin differently, or how they would view my parenting while he was like completely flopped out on the floor somewhere. So I really didn't go a lot of places, and I think I missed a really cool opportunity to just have him be a kid and just spend time with him. But I was so concerned about how other people were going to treat him, if it was going to be nice, if they were going to treat him differently, that I didn't really do much.
Yeah. What about you? Wendy? What would you?
I love that. I didn't even think about that perspective, but I would agree that's partly how I feel as well. But the other thing I think I would tell myself is, like, I always felt like when you got that diagnosis, it's like, okay, now I know what it is, let's fix it. And you can't fix it overnight, and that's something, at least for me, like, I didn't think about that. Was just like, okay, like, let's go to ABA, let's do that. But you're still going to have autism. Like, autism is going to be there. And, like, the other thing, like Sam and I always talk about is, you don't realize that you're going to have to teach them everything.
Yeah, that part sucks.
And because you're like, you get that diagnosis and you're like, okay, now I get to do this, and you take that, like, kind of roadmap, but it's really, like, what I never thought about is, like, it's just a lifelong journey. And, so that part is hard, and so I think what I would tell myself is just, like, breathe, and give yourself grace, because it is hard.
It takes a long time.
I think that is really important, is to give yourself some grace, because something that I struggled with was some self-compassion. Because it was just like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and it was just like, boom, 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 this is what we got to do. Get him in this therapy, do this, that, and I think I would tell myself it's okay to be upset sometimes, and it's going to be hard.
For sure.
And,
it's a grief that, like, nobody talks about.
Yeah.
Like, the life that you perceived yourself you're going to have, the life that now your child is going to have, and, like, the things you think about, like, what they're going to miss out on, like, those kind of things, and I promise I'm not going to cry.
Yeah, don't.
Don't. So it's a lot.
That's gonna be
It's a lot.
Everyone's going to start.
Yeah. and I talked about that in, like, my first episode on this channel, is the grieving process, because I remember I was saying that, like, one of my supervisors in social work school had explained that it was a grieving process, and specifically she mentioned parents of kids with special needs, and just grieving, the different hopes or dreams that you had for them. And it really is. It's like every stage. I know for me, like, even every birthday is like hard. It's bittersweet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially, like, I think, like, you bring that up, and it's a good point, where they, like, drill into your head, like if they don't talk by the time they're 5, by the age 5, you have to meet X, Y, Z milestone, and like you're so anxious to get to 5 to see what that holds, and then, like, 5 comes and you're like, shit. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I for sure. I know for me, also like I had him. I was in Illinois at the time, so we had him in early intervention, and the therapist would come in and then be like, "Oh, he's gonna talk. You just wait. He's gonna talk soon.
Yeah.
It's coming."
Yeah.
And I was like, I felt like I was just holding my breath for years, and that was
Yeah.
that was hard.
Yeah, for sure.
My next question is, when and how did you first realize your child was different? So I'll ask you first.
Yeah, no problem.
I think that was it was just a process because he was my first child, so I didn't have anything to compare it to.
Wait, was it all our first? It was all our first.
I had no
Okay.
baseline.
Yeah, we have that.
And I have brothers and sisters that had kids, but they all had kids when they were younger. So I had him when I was older. So I was like, maybe it's just different. But we had a good connection. You know what I mean? Like he would make eye contact with me. He would, reach out for, that social stuff. But I guess I didn't realize he didn't do that with everybody else. And so once we started going to those doctor's appointments, he was about 18 months. But he was waking up 12 times a night. Sleep was non-existent.
Yeah.
And so that part, I think, was kind of a red flag. Maybe the first red flag for me is why do people say, oh, he's such a great sleeper, their kids? I'm like, what am I doing wrong? You know? So I would say probably by his second birthday, because with boys too, I don't know if you guys experienced that, but it was well, boys are just slow starters. You know, he'll get there.
Yeah, I hate when people say that about the gender difference.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah, and so I was like, well, maybe who am I to push him? Maybe it's gonna come. So I would say probably 18 months to 2 years, and I knew something was off, but I just didn't know what. Because I mean, personally, I didn't have any other connection to autism, so I didn't know what it was like.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. What about you?
Colin.
I know what you're gonna say.
So same thing with Wendy, the not sleeping part.
Yeah.
He was just different from day one. He never slept when he was supposed to sleep. The other thing was that I would say I thought Colin was bored. I remember calling Kevin at work and being like, our kid's just bored because he's not playing with anything right. He's not, so I went out to, I went out to Target and I bought $150 worth of toys and I brought him home, and I remember he kept putting my hand on stuff to do it for him. And I thought, that's weird but cute.
Yeah.
And then, my son still does that.
And then I thought, okay, well maybe it sounds so bad. Maybe he's just not meant to be an astronaut. You know what I mean? That's okay. Maybe he's just a little slower, and that's totally cool. But then just the not talking.
And then you said when you took him around your friends.
Yeah, when I took him around my friends' kids, there was a big difference. We took a group gymnastics class at a place around here. It was a mommy and me. It was real cute. Now, mind you, there was only 3 boys in the class, but not kidding, all these little kids were doing these cute little jumping things, and then Kyle is literally licking the mirror and blowing on it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, and all he wanted to do was jump on the trampoline. And anytime that they tried to corral him or show him anything, there was no imitation whatsoever. So I thought that was weird. He could watch a movie at 10 months, straight through. And I thought that was really cool, but then once I had my daughter, I'm like, oh, that's not
that's not
what,
normal.
Yeah, that's not what kids normally do at that age.
Yeah.
So all that kind of came, and then actually Colin's first step therapist, who was speech, she was a really cool lady, but she had just gotten her master's, and so it was her first gig. And Kevin came home one day and said, hey, do you think he has autism, or do you think he's just delayed? And I remember she looked at us and she was like, well, I think he has autism. And she's like, but I can't diagnose him. And then I was like, wait a second, can you, you just got your master's, you just started, if you can see it, why can't I? And then all of a sudden, when you die and you see flashes of everything supposedly, Like,
It all came together.
As soon as she said that, it's like everything he ever did that was kind of strange just was like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh boy, okay,
Yeah.
that's how I found out.
For me, it was, I noticed, because Caden he was developing, I feel like, I didn't notice any red flags until he was probably close to a year. And then I noticed like he wasn't really engaging like eye contact and stuff. And I remember we took him to a little kid's birthday party, and all the like little babies were playing with like this person that was dressed up in costume as Elmo, and he was like not interested at all. And so then when he was about 13 months, I took him to New York to visit my family, and he was not responding to his name. And I remember my sister like actually Googled like 1-year-olds that don't respond to their name, and it was like the number one sign of autism was when the child is 1 year old and does not respond to their name. So then, of course, we went through the thing of the grieving process of, well, is he hard of hearing?
Yeah.
Or is that like, and so we had his hearing tested eventually, but however,
we can never complete all of that. Being in that booth is just like,
that's
a lot.
Yeah, that booth.
It's Colin's trying to claw his way out. I'm like, come on.
I don't know, like the little sounds, like does he turn his head and the flashing and the. So I'm glad it wasn't just us.
Chills, like I swear.
So, which is, I think you guys both touched on the next question about what if something the pediatrician could have told you in the beginning, you wish, or the diagnosing pediatrician, and that for me is sleep. Like, all the textbooks, nobody ever really talks about their sleep cycles being screwed up.
Yeah, sleep would have been nice.
Yeah.
I think too, like I didn't know like what, like I think like Wendy and I talked about this. Like we thought our kids would go into early intervention, like they would do like 3 or 4 years and like quote unquote do their time, and I would do my time.
Yes, I thought that too.
And then that would be it. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know if I would have appreciated that, or if I don't know if he would have told me that this was kind of like, well, it is a lifelong a thing for everybody, who's involved, not only my kid, If he would have told me that, if I just would have broke down completely at that time, or if I would have appreciated more of a heads up. But I know, like, that would have probably, because, like, he really didn't say that. He just said, okay, your son has autism. You need to do, the trifecta of therapies, ABA, speech, and OT. Try to catch him up with his, peers who don't have autism, and here's the script, and we'll see you later. So probably, but definitely the sleep would have been nice to have kind of known.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like, a good comparison or not or whatever, but like when I look back, I always think like, when you know someone that has cancer and like, okay, like here, like this is cancer, we're going to do this and we're going to fix this and we're going to, get to this point. For me, it was just like, okay, he has autism, like Sam said, like you go to ABA, you do these things. But like, really I don't think I knew what autism meant.
Well, and it means different things to different people.
Yeah.
So everyone's experience is so unique. So there's not like one cookie cutter way. We're going to do this, this, and this, and this, and then get to here. Point, the end game. Like,
right.
No...
And so I think like that would have been helpful, like to actually understand that like this is what autism is. This is like, you might not, there's autistic kids that don't talk, and this is what you can do, and just like I think more background would have been great, because that was kind of like, with my experience, it was just like, okay, he has autism, see you later, like go get on a 2-year, 3-year wait list, and eventually you might be able to get to ABA, I don't know, and even like we tried developmental preschool, their whole IEP process and stuff like that was, you can go and you don't have to do preschool, you can do ABA once you get in, but he'll be back in school by 7. And you like get this mind frame of like, not that he'll be fixed, but that it'll just, things will change, and so I think like, just getting a better understanding that, this is what it is.
Yeah.
And that's okay, but
Yeah.
like just not getting all of that information, I think was tough.
Yeah, I agree with that. How has having a child with autism changed you?
That was not.
That's a hard.
That's a surprise question.
Sorry.
That we were not given slightly in advance.
I sprung that one on you.
Yeah. How has it changed me? Well, it's definitely given me a little bit of a darker sense of humor.
I would agree with that. But I enjoy your dark sense of humor.
It's the light at the end of the
I think just realizing, I don't know, like some people freak out about certain stuff and like,
Yes.
I don't anymore just
Uh-huh.
because like I know I hate to say what a real problem
No, I
is,
know
but we've struggled,
Yeah.
so I know, like I can't fix autism, so the
Mhm.
stuff I can fix or the stuff, that's, it's not as deep, like when people say, oh, and I don't want to discount other people's problems, by any means, but it's just not as,
Yeah. So, Wendy, same question. How has having a child with autism changed you?
It has changed me significantly. I used to be an accountant, and I've changed my career based on autism, just so I could learn more and figure out how to help him better. But it also has changed me enough, obviously patience, but it definitely keeps me on high alert. I would say anytime we're out and about in the community, like I'm always focused on like where he's at, where he's going. Like sometimes it's hard because it's like you don't want to turn your back or take your eyes off him for a second just because you never know. And I have one example of that. Close to home, there's a park by us, and it's usually when I can like let my guard down and say like go play and do your thing. And a girl came up to him and started like kicking him in the face.
Oh, this is a story.
Yeah. And someone had noticed him and said like, oh, was trying to talk to me about autism and, kind of getting my perspective on things. And so I was like chatting with her, and she's like, hey, someone kicking your son. And I was like, wait, what? Like, what are you talking about? And he was climbing up a rock wall and got to like the top and the surface. And there was just this little 5-year-old girl just kicking him in the face. And I was just like,
Wow. And
so
how did he react to that?
He didn't. He just kind of like, he didn't make any noise or anything like that. He kind of just covered his ears and, so obviously I got him down and was looking for like her parents and trying to figure that out and navigate that. But yeah, so I definitely, I don't know if I have high blood pressure, but I probably would
I
say
know. I think that
that
too
changes
sometimes.
it.
I'm like, I think my blood pressure is probably high.
But yeah, I mean, and it just like, I would say too, it makes me help without like judging people, because it's like, you just never know. Like some of the struggles, like even my own family don't see like what happens like in our house or in our community. Like especially when he was little, if we're going to the grocery store and he has a meltdown, we're just sitting on the floor chilling until he can like get back up. So it's just like you just think sometimes like, hey, give that person
Grace.
just because you don't know what they're fighting at home.
Yeah. I remember one time we took my son Ryan and he doesn't have autism, and we took him for his birthday recently to the candy place, the Albany's, and Caden went inside with us, and he decided he was just going to flop on the floor.
Yeah.
In the middle, and there was like crowds of people just walking around him, and Ryan's looking at me, and I remembered like, okay, I need to stay calm for Ryan, because if he sees that I'm anxious and upset, then it's going to make him more upset. So I just kind of was like, it is what it is. He's going to flop on the floor. He'll eventually get up, and I can't worry about what anyone else is thinking. And like, Ryan, go pick out your candy. Like, that's it. But definitely for me, having a child with autism is puts you on high alert. I would agree with that.
Mhm.
Where you're constantly looking and on guard, and even when he goes to parties, a lot of times I'll have to get someone to watch him because he will just he's all over the place. He'll pick food off other people's plates because he's like, oh, I see something I like there. Okay, I'm gonna eat this.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And just like constantly just corralling him, following him around, and
it's made me. I can tell you exactly what your kid did wrong at parties.
Yeah.
I mean, because I'm not with the parents that are talking and drinking, and I'm following my kid around, and
there's not really.
Yeah, so I can tell you, hey, your kid did this, and your kid was supposed to do this, because I'm not with the adults.
Or like someone will come over and try to have a conversation with me, and the whole time I'm like watching, and like, excuse me, I'll be right back.
Yeah. Yep.
Sorry, I can't really focus right now.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that is makes you feel like you're kind of a little bit scatterbrained, I think.
For sure.
But yeah. And then, so my final question, I don't know who wants to go first. What does decompressing look like for you right now? Or what do you do to decompress? Who wants that one?
Go ahead, Wendy. You have to think of something.
Yeah. I would say like, I don't know, like I will keep it real simple. Like when I was younger, before kids, I really was like into fitness and running and doing like, just different things. But now like decomposing is like, I would say I like to watch movies with my other son because he loves all of that kind of stuff. And so just like being home, like not having to worry about anything, and everyone's safe, so just like the small things, watching movies, coloring, like those kind of things, being with the kids,
Yeah. I mean, even for me, last night someone was having a Halloween party, and I was so exhausted by the time my son went to bed that I didn't even feel like going to socialize. I was just like, sometimes decompressing for me is like just being alone in like a quiet space.
Yeah.
Reading.
Sure.
Or like you said, like a lot of times when he was younger, I would feel a release from running. So then I took up running, and just having that, it was just a stress reliever. And people would be like, how do you run? I hate running. And I'm just like, I don't know. It just helps get that
for sure,
that stress out of my body. So
mine was always working when Kyle was little, just because it sounds so bad. Being a social worker was less stressful. Like, because the alternative was taking care of him all day. Which was like really stressful, and I didn't even I don't think I called off sick ever. Because because I knew that, you know what I mean, like the alternative was going to be chasing Colin around all day, and that was, so I know I enjoyed working back then, even though I complained about it, like how I usually do. But definitely work, and now I still say probably work.
Yeah.
Well,
I say too, work, because so much of your other time is with your kids. Work gives you that social interaction.
I think any parent, helps. And I don't even know, because now I'm thinking about it. I don't even know if that's an autism parent thing or just a parent thing. That the work, because stay-at-home mom is tough. So
I think it just gives you a sense of accomplishment. Feel like you're being productive. I think it helps anyone.
Yeah, for sure. But definitely work and just hanging out with family. That's about it.
Yeah. So anything else?
No? I think I'm good.
No? All right. Well, this has been fun. We should do this again. Come up with some more questions.
Probably 1,000 other questions.
I can come up with a lot more questions. All right. So I hope you enjoyed today. And for all you autism parents out there, remember, you are seen, you are heard, and you are not alone. Thank you.